And happy Friday, fight fans, and welcome back to another episode of Inside the UFC, brought to you by No Game Scheduled. I'm your host, John Mastay, joined alongside Drew the Rooster Johnson, and we are back. A quick turnaround from UFC 320 as we head into UFC 321. I got a lot of comments about it last time. The Hamzat and Dricus du Plessis poster is up behind me. There we go. The official, my ever first UFC card ever, is on the display now. Signed 1/1 auto by Drew the Rooster Johnson. Thank you, Drew, for making that. It's a cherished possession to me now. Drew, how are you doing, man? I know I just saw you an hour ago. Me and Drew have been training MMA. I know it's hard to believe, but we actually have. We just got out of a box hybrid class, and here we are, Drew. But Drew, how are you? Folks at home want to know how you're doing.
Absolutely, John. It's always good. When you get to go train at a UFC gym and then come and talk about UFC. There's never anything wrong with that. So let's hop right into this. I'm excited to talk about some really good fights that are slated for this Saturday. We got an early card too. Early card, 1 o'clock on the Central Time.
I was just about to say that. For those of you UFC fans who assumed this fight was going to take place at night and you were planning your Saturdays, do something fun in the morning. Maybe your girlfriend's going to make you go to an apple orchard or a pumpkin orchard or a sunflower orchard, or can you think of any other orchards?
I mean, I don't think any of those are orchards except for the apple orchard. I think it's called a pumpkin patch and a sunflower field. But okay.
Drew is no longer allowed to have opinions outside of the UFC. But this fight takes place. The main card starts at 1 p.m. Central Time. That is 2 Eastern. No.
12 Pacific.
Noon Eastern. 2 Mountain Time. Or am I
No,
going
John,
backwards?
you got it all wrong.
I'm going backwards.
It's
I'm
2
going
Eastern,
backwards.
2
My bad.
Pacific. Or 2 Eastern, 12 Pacific.
That's why I just host the show. But this fight's taking place in Abu Dhabi, and let's get right into it. Drew, is there any prelims or early prelims that you wanted to talk about as well?
I mean, we could sit here and talk about the whole prelims, but I think the only fights people are really interested in are the 5 that we're going to be talking about.
Drew, let's just give them a little bit of a sneak peek here and behind your mind. Of the prelims, what's a fight that's very interesting to you that you think people should watch out for?
I think we're going to talk about Walter Volker versus Louis Sutherland. I think that's a really good heavyweight fight. Walter Volker's coming off a really impressive knockout win at UFC Nashville. He's finally ranked, Johnny Walker's brother. And Louis Sutherland's not a bum. I think this is going to be an absolute, just a barn burner of a fight. These two guys are going to go in there. They're going to try to take each other's heads off. Another fight we can talk about is Hamdi Abdul Wahab versus Chris Barnett. I don't know if any of you guys know, but Chris Barnett is a 5'9" heavyweight. Weighs in at 5'9", 265 in the heavyweight division. The shortest active heavyweight by far. And he's fighting, and he's a big underdog. And then probably the most interesting prelim is going to be Ikram Aliskerov versus the Iron Turtle, Jun Young Park. This is going to be an unstoppable force in Ikram versus the immovable objects in Park. I've never seen someone take as much damage as Park and still keep throwing. So I think this is going to be a really good fight, and I can't even tell you who's going to win. But other than that, John, let's jump into this main card.
You're going to notice, if you sit down and watch every fight on UFC 321, you're going to notice it's a big boy intensive card. A lot of light heavyweights, a lot of heavyweight fights, middleweight. You're going to see some big boys. You're going to see a lot of knockouts on this card, I'm predicting. But let's get into the main card. First fight of the main card, is a light heavyweight bout between the number 7 Alexander Rakic versus Azamat Murzakanov, the number 10 contender. Serbian versus Russia. Right now, Rakic is coming in at a minus 105. Murzakanov is coming in at minus 115. We are recording this episode a little bit earlier than we normally do. We're recording this Wednesday, so odds are subject to change. But due to what we're at right now, Drew, who do you take for this fight?
I think this fight's going to be a coin flip, but I think I'm going to give the edge to Azamat Murzakanov. There's a reason why he's 15-0 and undefeated, coming off a really impressive win. Not to say Rakic isn't a bad fighter. I mean, Rakic, we've seen him give Yuri Prochazka a run for his money at UFC 300. We've seen a lot of really good fights from him, but he is coming off a loss. I think Azamat Murzakanov is your new light heavyweight, and when you have someone that hits a lot harder, and especially getting in close, you can really mess with Rakic's style because he's used to keeping you at bay, and with his long reach, as soon as someone gets in closer, just be able to absolutely tear him up in the clinch, and that's what I think we're going to see from Azamat. So give me Azamat Murzakanov by late round knockout or a unanimous decision.
Yeah, I think this is a coin flip as well. Murzakanov, like you said, first of all, it's a super tough division. It's probably the second most competitive division in the UFC right now. If you had to ask me, the light heavyweight division. Some of the guys are starting to fade out and retire, so it's becoming a little bit. We're looking for new guys to take that spot. But a 5'10" guy in this weight class is not common. I mean, a lot of these guys are floating around 6 foot, and so to have someone his size dominate, I don't want to say dominate, but perform the way he has is pretty impressive. On this coin flip, though, I am going to give it to Rakic. I think that size advantage and that reach is finally going to catch up to Azamat, and I'm going to go with Rakic for this fight.
Absolutely, that's a really good pick. And like I said, I think this fight is you'd have a better chance flipping a coin than picking the outcome of this fight. That's how close I really think this fight is. I think it's gonna be an absolute hell of a fight to kick off this main card.
Let's move up to the next fight, the heavyweight bout between the number 5 Jailton Almeida versus the number 2 Alexander Volkov. We're going to talk about this guy a little bit more as the show goes on here because we're talking about some guys who have faced Volkov in an intense fashion. Almeida right now, minus 225. Volkov, plus 185. Drew, are you with the odds right now? Do you think Almeida is favored heavily for a reason?
No, not at all. I think that I'm going to go with Alexander Volkov on this one. I know we talked a little bit earlier about the way we're going to pick, and the more I thought about this fight, I really don't see Jailton Almeida pulling it off. Volkov is 6'7", actually closer to 6'9" if you ask him, and he's got an 80-inch reach, which is absolutely insane. I think if I'm remembering right, I think we've only seen one fighter that has a bigger reach than him, and that's John Jones. So to have an 80-inch reach in this weight class is unbelievable. And you talk about a guy whose legs are 4 feet long, that's just absolutely nuts. So for that reason, give me Alexander Volkov. I know he's coming off a loss, but you and I both know that when he fought Cyril Gane, that wasn't a loss. Even Dana White came up to him after the fight and said, "You got screwed. We're going to make this right." And I think this is Dana White making this right in Jailton Almeida. He's a dangerous grappler, but we've seen what happens to Volkov when he fights really good grapplers. Like we saw how he submitted Tai Tuivasa. We've seen how he just handles the pressure of wrestlers like Cyril Gane. And for that reason, I think that we're going to have to give it to Volkov. You're number 2 for a reason in this weight class. I mean, sure, you're 38-11, but there's a reason why he's number 2 and Jailton is not. So for that reason, I think we're going to take Alexander Volkov.
Yeah, I think this just really depends. You talked about it there, striking versus grappling. It's a tale as old as time. And right now, the odds have it that either Volkov wins by a KO or TKO, or Almeida wins by a submission. I think it's just going to come down to, is Almeida going to be able to get inside Volkov as fast as he wants to and as often as he wants to? Like you said, great wrestler, great jiu-jitsu, really good on the ground, grappling's really good from Almeida. And those long legs of Volkov, we've seen it a couple times before, Drew. They've kind of come in as weaknesses for him. Tall guy, he's 6'7", you want to call him 6'9", like he claims. That's a wide area. That's a lot of space to kick into and to do some damage. And so, if Jailton can get in there, I think he can make some serious moves on the ground. It really just depends on how fast he can get in there.
Absolutely.
Volkov, very good on the defense of all the things I just said. I think this is another coin flip toss or fight. Excuse me. This is gonna be close. I will go with you. I'm gonna take Volkov on this one, but I will not be shocked if Almeida walks away with it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about one more thing about Jailton Almeida. Was that 299 when he fought Curtis Blades? He looked very good in the first round, and then he shot for a takedown on Curtis Blades against the fence, and Curtis Blades knocked him out with hammer fists, not the TKO, clean out. And I feel like if you slip up and you don't shoot for a takedown perfectly on Volkov, I feel like the same thing's going to happen because he has a lot more power and strength than Curtis Blades has. So for that reason, I think that we're just going to see a little bit more of a dominance from Volkov. And let's also talk about how the difference in weight between these guys. Jailton Almeida walks around at about 235. Volkov walks around a little bit heavier than 255. So we got about a 20-pound weight difference just in strict walk-around weight. So these guys aren't going to be cutting. Jailton Almeida has always been on the smaller side of heavyweights because he can't make it down to 205. So I feel like this isn't a true home for Jailton Almeida because he's gone up against the top guys and hasn't performed as well as he does against the lower guys. Sure, he absolutely ragdolled Derek Lewis for 5 rounds, but you talk about a guy whose gas tank isn't elite. I think for that reason, another reason why I'm going to be backing Volkov in this fight.
I think this is also just this might be if you had to ask me, outside of the main event, this might end up being fight of the night because this fight carries a lot of weight. You're talking about a number 2 versus a number 5. You're very much have the ability here that the winner of this fight is the next heavyweight contender. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You got 2 versus 5 here. If Almeida wins, he becomes 2. Volkov drops. If Volkov wins, and whatever happens up there at the final fight of the night, this is very much a yellow brick road into receiving a title shot. And so I think both those guys know that. They've probably been told that, and I think we're going to see a very interesting fight here. We're going to see some guys dig in this fight. Let's move up.
Absolutely. Let me talk one more. One more quick thing about this is that if Volkov wins against Almeida, he's going to get a shot at redemption against Aspinall because those two have fought before. So,
yes,
and Dana White has said that the winner of this fight will be getting a title shot. I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of this fight is the number 1 ranked contender come Monday, just because whoever loses that fight is going to drop down to number 2. So, for that reason, I want to see Volkov and Aspinall too. I think it's going to be a hell of a fight, much better than the first one. But you never know till that the opening bell sounds.
We're going to go down a couple weight classes for the third to last fight of the night. The number 9 contender Mario Bautista versus the number 2 contending Umar Nurmagomedov. I nailed that one for once. Nurmagomedov is currently minus 625. Bautista a plus 455. Drew, I quite literally have never seen a spread this big, maybe ever in my life.
I've seen it a couple times, and yeah.
We're close to doing 10 episodes of this show. That might be the biggest spread that we've seen on the show.
Yeah, it's close up there, but there's a reason why, and it's Umar. He's Khabib's cousin, Dagestani, elite wrestler. Only lost to Merab because Merab is just not human. Yeah, and so we're not even gonna beat around the bush. Umar, by any way he wants, knockout, submission, decision, however he wants, beats Mario Bautista 11 out of 10 times. No offense to Mario Bautista, but these Dagestanis are built different, and I don't see him winning this fight. He's going to try to strike with Umar. Umar's going to outstrike him and take him down and just dominate him for 3 rounds. Umar's going to win this fight. That's end of story.
I mean, I never want to use look at the guys they've fought, right? But realistically, you look at the guys Batista's fought his last 3 times. I mean, you're talking about Patchy Mix, Jose Aldo, who should have retired 5 years ago, and Simone. And it's dude, this guy was contending. Umar was contending for the belt his last fight. I mean, and granted, he's going up against, you and I have had this conversation numerous times, he's going up against arguably the GOAT of this weight class, right? So you can say yes, you can say no, but that's a really tough opponent to fight. And then you're going down and you're going to go fight Bautista. And these Dagestanis, they don't let that go to their head. So I agree with you. I think Umar is going to walk away with this one. Nothing else needs to be said. Let's save some time and move up to the women's strawweight title bout. The number 5 Mackenzie Dern going up against the number 1 Verna Jandiroba. This is an interesting fight. I don't think people are talking about this as much as they should. Drew, do you want to talk to me real quick about what happened in this weight class, why the belt is vacant?
So we're gonna talk about this vacancy a little bit later in your final round question I'm giving you. But okay. Weili said she wants Val at 125, so Dana White said vacate the belt and move up, and you got it. So that's what happened. I personally don't agree with these two people fighting for the belt. I think it should be Verna and Tatiana, but that's besides the point. Anyways.
You're biased?
What?
You're biased?
Slightly. But Tatiana's number 2, Verna's number 1. I don't feel like and Tatiana fought for the belt. Mackenzie Dern hasn't beaten anybody to really warrant her a title shot yet. I mean, you look at her last few fights, she's kind of been all over the place. I think she's 3-3 in her last 6. So to give someone that's 3-3 in her last 6, yeah.
She's 2-1 in her last 3. So it's
yeah. But I mean, she got knocked out by Andrade, who's washed as hell, yada yada. Anyways, this is a rematch. Everybody wants to see the rematch. Let's go with Verna on this fight. I think that Verna's ground game is exceptional. I mean, look what happened in their Mackenzie Dern beat Amanda Ribas, who's not gonna lie, kind of washed. Anyways, These two fought before in the Apex, which is a much smaller octagon. For those that don't know, it's actually 8 feet shorter across each side, so it tends to favor jiu-jitsu grappling as opposed to regular, like, Greco-Roman wrestling. So Mackenzie Dern had a really big advantage in the Apex, and I feel like that's why she was able to pull off a decision win. But that was years back, and I think that this version of Verna is elite. Like, you look what she's done to some of the top contenders. She submitted Amanda Lemos in 3 rounds, which Wei Li wasn't even able to finish her in 3. She absolutely dominated Yan X in 3 rounds, which she looked better fighting Yan X than Wei Li did. Wei Li held the belt. She dominated Lupi Godinez in 3 rounds, which was pretty impressive considering how good of grappling Lupi has. I feel like Verna's going to win this fight 10 out of 10 times. Not to, diss Mackenzie Dern, but I just don't feel like at this stage in her career she's able to put up with someone as dangerous as Verna is. And so for that reason, I think we're gonna see Verna probably by a late submission or a decision.
Yeah, I'm going with you on that one. I'm taking Verna as well, just for the simple fact is I think she's faster, and I don't even mean like, oh, it's close. No, I mean I think she's significantly faster than Dern, and I think that's pretty much what the fight's going to be. And in women's MMA, speed kills. I mean that's in every MMA, but especially in women's fighting. If you are faster than your opponent, you simply just win majority of the time. I mean, Amanda Nunes is probably the only exception to that, only because she had, a Mack truck for a right hand. And so that's where I'm at. I'm taking Verna as well. I think the belt goes to her. Who's next in line for this? Real quick, after this, because this is the title, who's next in line to get this? Is it Tatiana? Who is it?
Really believe it's Tatiana. I mean, Tatiana beat Lemos, who challenged for the belt. I feel like you could make a case that Tatiana has to fight Yan X, but I don't see Yan X getting a title eliminator fight after her performance against Verna, which, no offense to her, was pretty subpar. I feel like Tatiana's the obvious choice, and that's not me being biased. There's nobody else in this division that really deserves it the way Tatiana does. I mean, she was able to steal a pretty clear round from Wei Li, and had she not, destroyed her bad knee, I feel like we would have seen a much more competitive Tatiana in that fight. But it's just the way the cookie crumbles, and I feel like that Verna and Tatiana would be a fight that's really going to light up this division and give it that real push that it needs to be the way it was when Wei Li was the queen of this division. Because you look at it, we really went from a Joanna title reign to a Wei Li title reign, and I really don't see anybody that's be able to carry the torch the way those two did. I mean, we had Rose, who won a couple fights. We had Andrade, who stole the belt from Rose, but there's no real contender to really have that nice long title reign like we've been so accustomed to seeing in this division. So I'd like to see Verna and Tatiana, because I feel like either one of those could potentially hold the belt for a couple years, but that's just why I want to see that fight.
Let's move on to the main event. Now, folks, I'm gonna tell you right now. Everyone here knows the dynamic me and Drew have. Drew, a very much a enthusiast and expert on the UFC. I am about 2 steps above a casual, and you can tell in my takes, some of my picks sometimes, and my reasoning of why I do what I do. I am the leading expert on this next fight. I think in the United States currently. I surpassed Joe Rogan on this next fight of Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane.
Did you say Ciryl Gane?
I say Ciryl Gane.
Ciryl Gane? Sorry, all the cereals gone.
all the cereals gone is his new nickname. We are patent pending that right now on the show. The heavyweight title bout between the number 1 contending Gane versus the champion Tom. What would it take Aspinall?
I thought it was the Honey Badger Aspinall.
No, I'm naming him What Would It Take Tom Aspinall. If you know, you know. Listen,
I know.
I'm a Tom Aspinall fan, lover. He's
lover,
1A
John.
right
That's
now.
A little bit.
He's 1A right now. Hey, he's 1A right now, and my favorite fighters. 1B is probably Murad. They go back and forth all the time. This is not going to be an easy fight for Tom Aspinall. I think a lot of people, casuals probably, think Aspinall's just going to dog walk him in the first round because he's done that to so many people. Very true. However, the people he has faced are not on the level of Gane. This is going to be a tough fight for Tom Aspinall. Out of all the opponents he's faced, this fight has the potential to go into deep waters, as everyone always assumes. As a fighter, me and Drew are currently on a project right now. We have a little bit of a sneak preview here. We're talking about who the best fighter is of all time from every country, and we're seriously having a deep debate right now on who it is for France. And Gan's up there because he is a sensational fighter. Before I make my predictions, Drew, I'm gonna hand the microphone off to you. What's your opinion on this fight, and which way are you going? Are you with the odds, or are you against?
I'm with the odds, but I want you to talk about this, then I'll give my take. But I am taking Tom Aspinall.
I'm taking Tom Aspinall. Here's why. Tom Aspinall has been in camp for the past year, maybe year plus. He has a few losses on his record. I take one of them away. I think most people would. The first fight against Blades, that happens, man. It's happened so many times. Guy throws leg kicks or wild hooks, and they break something. It breaks a joint. Something happens. It's hard to call that a legitimate loss. It really is.
Can I step in real quick, John? I think if I could change one rule in the UFC, it would be if you have a catastrophic injury in the first minute of the first round, that fight should be a no contest. But continue.
Yeah, I mean, and your opinion can be swayed, right? It just depends on who you are, who your favorite fighters are. But Tom was fully on the train of I'm fighting John Jones. You and I talked about it on the show. Everyone knows that there was talks of it happening. There was agreements of it happening. John Jones decides to drop out. He retires, and now he's about to unretire. It's a whole long story. You can find about 40 different videos on YouTube talking about it. We're not talking about it in this episode. But Tom, when he was in the understanding that coming off that last fight against Blades, where he won in decisive fashion, he immediately went back to start training for John Jones, right? Then he retires. He drops out. The fight's not happening. And so he just has to keep training until to his next opponent, which is Gan, who, okay, Gan, you're fighting Tom Aspinall. Now you have to start your camp. So it's like Tom Aspinall has maybe 4 to 6 months of training time over Gan. Right now, Tom Aspinall is in the best shape of his career, right? He is more lean than he ever has been. He's more powerful than he ever has been. And so this is why I'm taking Aspinall, is because he has been consistently training for a fight for the last year. It just so happens for the last couple months he's been training for Gan. And ultimately, I think that's where it is. Both of these guys, sensational fighters. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. This is kind of the heavyweight division in the UFC has been underwater for the last couple years, and we've been waiting for it to float to the top. And I think both of these fighters are really going to help it float to where it deserves to be. But I take Aspinall in this fight.
I agree with you. I think that that everything you said is true, and let's talk about Tom Aspinall. There's reports coming out of Media Day that Tom Aspinall currently is sitting at 11% body fat, which is absolutely wild for a heavyweight. That's something you don't see, especially someone that's 6'5" and fighting at the heavyweight division to be only 11% body fat. That's absolutely crazy. And I feel like Tom training all this time for John Jones doesn't hurt because Cyril Gane's 6'4" with an 80+ inch reach. All your time training that you spent for Jones is going to translate very well to fighting against Cyril Gane. And I'm not trying to downplay Cyril Gane and say he's a bum, but this is the one of two guys that I think have a chance to beat Aspinall, and he's fighting one of them. Cyril Gane is a good grappler. He's got good hands. He's a really good all-around mixed martial artist, but I have a feeling that Tom Aspinall's speed and pressure and power are going to overwhelm Gane. Maybe not in the first round, but probably in the second or third. But I got to play devil's advocate. If this fight goes past the third round, I don't know who wins.
We don't
because
know.
we've seen Cyril Gane go 5 rounds. We haven't seen Tom Aspinall go 5 rounds. We're talking about someone who went 5 rounds with Prime Ngannou and didn't get knocked out in Cyril Gane. I mean, sure, he gassed to all hell, but he didn't get finished in 5 rounds with Prime Ngannou, and that's something that very few people can hang their hat and go, oh, I went 5 rounds with probably one of the most dangerous fighters to ever walk the earth, and I walked out, without getting finished. So I think that this is going to be an absolute great fight, or Tom Aspinall's going to put him away in the first 30 seconds. But either way, I don't see Tom Aspinall losing this fight.
Yeah, win or lose, we booze for Tom Aspinall. That's my current motto right now. I think what's going to happen in this fight, you mentioned it, the size of Jones comparable to Gane. Gane shorter than Tom Aspinall, longer reach, 81 inches to 78. Tom's going to have to get inside, get closer a little bit more than he is accustomed to. He's going to have to get in. You combine that with his striking, that is a very, very bad situation for Gane. If you're of equal distance to Tom Aspinall, it's going to take him a little bit more effort to get inside of you, because your reach is the same as his reach, right? So wherever you're going to be at, the opposite guy's going to be at. So you're in this section. If you have to get closer to a guy, you've shortened the distance in how far that punch has to travel, which means you have more energy to put into a guy's face. And I think that helps Tom a lot. You mentioned it earlier. We talked about Volkov. Both these guys have taken on Volkov. Tom, famously, literally any fighter. Fastest average, knockout.
Shortest average fight time in UFC history.
It's like a minute 12 or whatever it is, right?
It's just over 2 minutes, I believe.
Has never even been to the second half of the second round, right? He finishes guys. Volkov, one of them, right? Gane had to go to the decision card, which that's one of those fights who some people didn't even think Gane won.
He did not win.
So you want to give it the college football strength of scheduling mindset. Tom has done a good job. I know the argument that Tom has not fought a lot of great heavyweights. That I completely understand that, but no one should be in the heavyweight division. No one should be able to have a minute 12 knockout time average. No one should be able to have that. These guys should be able to be taking these punches, and he's just putting guys to sleep in several ways. Really good jiu-jitsu, really good wrestling. His dad, Andy, has built this man to be the perfect fighter. He's the most well-rounded fighter currently in the UFC, in my opinion, right? There's no one who does everything. There's no one who does everything to the level that Tom does across the board. There's a lot of guys who do everything better than Tom, right? There's guys who are better grapplers than Tom. There's guys who's better strikers. But no one does everything across the board as good as he does.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, and that's why I feel like that would have been a hell matchup for Jon Jones, because Jon Jones is good at finding a hole in your game, no matter how small, and just using it and exploiting it for 25 minutes. And
however,
I feel like...
we wanted to see that because we wanted to see what would Jon Jones be able to find in Tom Aspinall. It was a perfect matchup. Unstoppable force versus a movable object. You're talking about a guy who to date has no flaws, versus a guy who historically finds flaws in everyone's game. That's a matchup everyone wants to see. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I've let it go. I'm more excited for this next Jones fight that's coming up, apparently. Anything left you want to say about this main event, Drew?
No, I feel like that this is like, if Tom beats Cyril Gane, we're gonna see maybe a new heavyweight GOAT. I don't know if I'm speaking too soon, but Tom Aspinall, I believe, needs
definitely too soon.
Definitely too soon. I feel like the strength of this division right now is so weak that it would be able for Tom to be able to rattle off 5 or 6 title defenses. Stipe had 4, but Stipe also fought guys that, no offense to Tom, would have destroyed Tom in his prime. Like prime heavyweight DC would have, absolutely destroyed Tom. And Tom's even said it, that he believes that prime DC at heavyweight would have beat him, and I think I agree. I think a prime Stipe would have beat him. But that's not saying that Tom isn't a hell of an athlete. He is, and I think that he's what the heavyweight division not only deserved, but very, very needed as well.
That's going to do it for our main coverage of the main card for UFC 321. We're moving on to the final round, and then we need to come up with a better name for what
final round.
We're gonna, the final round. But this
or
is
round 4, round 5, or championship rounds. I don't know.
How about round 6?
I like that.
All right. But it's the final round. It's the segment where I ask Drew a question. He has not been prompted. He does not know the question. This is clearly off the topic. I asked Drew to prepare himself weeks in advance for these show, and he does an excellent job doing that. But every once in a while, we want to see what he thinks of when he doesn't get any preparation. Drew, are you ready today?
Absolutely.
Drew, it's a simple one. There are no fighters involved in this question. A lot of people have been kind of circling on the internet with the Paramount deal going through in a couple of weeks, really, and the business decisions that have been made. A lot of people are pointing fingers at Dana White for the successes of the UFC, but also the downfalls as well. Drew, my question to you is, overall, do you think Dana White currently, not all time, do you think Dana White is currently holding back the sport, or is he advancing it to new heights?
Absolutely not. Dana White's been trying to do something like this Paramount
not?
deal.
It was either or.
Sorry, you said, is he holding back the sport? Absolutely not. I think
said,
Dana White.
Or is he taking it to new heights? And you go, absolutely not. That's not an answer to the question.
I meant to say that Dana White is pushing forward with this sport. Sure. I feel like this last I know 320. We still have 322 for 323, but 323 could wind up to be the best pay-per-view of the year, just by some of the fights that we've seen kind of roll in on 323. But that's another time. I feel like when the Ultimate Fighter aired on Spike TV, the UFC was $44 million in the hole. And Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar saved the UFC. Over the first 6 minutes of that fight, 12 million more people tuned in on Spike TV, and that deal saved the UFC. I feel like what we're going to now in the Paramount deal is going to be somewhat similar to that, where this Paramount deal is going to, a lot of people that don't have access to ESPN Plus or whatever, might just tune into the UFC and find their new favorite sport. They're going to find it one night, they're going to see a replay or a highlight on YouTube, then they're going to go look it up, and it's going to go straight to Paramount, and you're going to be able to watch old fights, and especially being able to be aired on TV as well with some of these events. I feel like that's a really big step in the right direction for really showing the UFC to the world. And I feel like that, I know Dana White's brought it from 44 million in the hole to a multiple billion-dollar business. I feel like we see another step that's that large again with this new Paramount deal, if everything goes the way that I think it will.
The thing I'm entertained most about the idea with this Paramount deal, I'll say this real quickly and then we can move on, is we're finally going to get actual ratings of the UFC. They've never released ever, I don't think, how many people have actually watched fights. Maybe they've done it with McGregor fights or with Big Jones fights back in the day, but they keep the ratings to themselves. And listen, everybody knows, everyone's pirating the UFC, right? Most people are struggling today in America. The $70 in past, I've been on the show and I've talked about how terrible it is. Drew, you've asked me a question: is what do you think the one thing is that keeps people out of the sport? And it's simply paying for it. It's really difficult to do if you want to get into the sport. But now we're at a position where we're going to get ratings and it's going to become easily accessible. I think it's good for the future, and there's a handful of people you can thank for it, but obviously number one's got to be Dana.
Absolutely. I think that Dana knew what he wanted, and I feel like that ESPN Plus model, where ESPN wanted the pay-per-views, they wanted exclusive access, they wanted all these things, and I feel like that's something that Dana White, the UFC's in a good enough position monetarily to where they don't need to really be selling pay-per-views. Is that the Paramount Plus deal will bring in so much more money to the UFC than I think pay-per-views ever did. Mostly for the fact that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like some phone companies offer Paramount Plus with your cell service, the same way I know T-Mobile does for Netflix.
That's true.
So now you have people that aren't even paying for Paramount that have access to it, and now I think you're going to see more people getting into the sport.
You're talking about Paramount Plus, and you are correct about that, but you're also forgetting it's CBS at the end of the day. That's who's having this, right? This is probably going to, I don't know if it's going to be all the fights. I don't know what the plan is yet, but you're probably talking about half these main cards are going to be on public radio television.
Absolutely, and let's talk about CBS. Is that I remember when Strikeforce was still a thing. The UFC bought it out. When the Diaz brothers got into a brawl on national TV on CBS, CBS said we are never putting MMA on our network ever again. And now they're going to be the exclusive holder of the UFC. If that doesn't show you how much the sport's grown in the past 10 to 15 years, I don't know what else does. I feel like this is the UFC's in a position to where it's no longer called human cockfighting. It's sanctioned by every state athletic commission. Dana's going global. He's trying to take it to every country. They took it to 2 new countries this year, if I'm not mistaken. They're trying to push it in all the right directions, and I feel like this Paramount deal is going to wrap up a really good year for the UFC and just catapult it straight into God knows where at the beginning of next year.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the 6th round, as we've now just started calling it. The question where Drew asked me something a little bit more for the casual fans. Drew, you gave me a little hint earlier about Wei Lee vacating the belt there. What do we got here today?
So let's talk about the current state of the UFC. Is that 9 times out of 10, me and you were talking about the male side, but what about the female side? So we've had people that have held the belt in all 3 divisions of the UFC. We've had Wei Lee, Joanna had her dominant strawweight run, then Wei Lee, and now there's no champ. We had, Valentina seemed to always run the flyweight division. Now we have what's going to happen in 2 years when they both retire, when Wei Lee and Valentina retire. And now we had Amanda Nunes, who seemed to run 135 for years, and ran 145 to the point where nobody wanted to fight her at 145. So now we only have Kayla Harrison holding the 135 belt. So that brings my question is, I know there was rumors about sending Magomed Ankalaev to the PFL for Dakota Dacheva and trying to bring in some, well-known talent. Do you think that's what the UFC needs to do to really, bring that spark back to women's MMA that it seemed to have lost?
An excellent question, and you put it very well, Drew. So overall, the question is what does the UFC need to do to bring back women's fighting?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I look at it right now. There's no dominant champs like there was in years past.
Two things. Number one, it's the same thing with every single sport, right? It's why LeBron hasn't retired. It's why the UFC's kind of been in a scramble the last 3 years when on the men's side of things. You just need a star, right? You need talent, right? It's the big thing in sports. You need a protagonist. You need several protagonists. You need antagonists for those protagonists who some people think they're protagonists. You need sides, right? This is just how it is in sports, right? You need to be able to have someone to root for. And right now, the UFC, the women's division, just doesn't have any stars, right?
I mean, they have stars right now, but they're aging, and what's going to happen in 3 years?
They have really good fighters. They don't have stars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Valentina's a superstar.
Listen. I don't think people understand. Politics aside, personality aside, but I don't think people will ever understand how much Conor McGregor did for the UFC. It's unbelievable what that guy did. He probably by himself brought in maybe 15% growth in just every circuit of it.
Oh, it was more than that. That's why Conor McGregor's amazing.
He was
even outside of the ring.
He was loud. He talked shit at a time when it used to just be, you respect your opponent. You go in there. You don't hate each other. This dude was talking shit in the press conference 3 days before the fight. I'm going to beat you I'm going to do whatever I want. And then he did it, right? So I'm not saying you have to go to that extent, right? But so number one, you need to find some people find some girls who people can relate to, right? Or they gravitate towards. So that's number one. Number two, you got to add more fighters. It's just as simple as that. There's 8 divisions in men and 5 in women or something like that?
No, I believe there's 9, and I could be wrong, but I believe there's 9 in men and 3 in women. I know some promotions in Japan have an atomweight for women, which is 105. I don't know if that's something you bring in. Talk about maybe bringing back the 145 division and putting 2 girls like Norma Dumont and someone else for a 145 belt. Bring that division back in the UFC.
I just counted. There's 8 for men and 3 for women, right?
Yeah, you're right. My bad.
I've been saying this for years, right? If whatever way this comes off, I apologize. You need to add a heavyweight class for women, right? I want to see some Texas farm girls, some girls who are cattle ranchers, girls who have throwing history in track and field, literally big girls get in there, because that's the one thing. You know what? Here it is. It's the same thing. People talk about all the time, the WNBA, right? Good at shooting, good defense. There's everything technical about women's basketball. If you like basketball at a technical level, watch women's basketball because it's slower pace and they make the right moves. However, that explosiveness of Giannis Antetokounmpo coming from the 3-point line, 2 steps, right? Things like that. Dunking. People want to see that. That's the explosive aspect of basketball. In the UFC, in boxing, in fighting, what do people want to see? They want to see knockouts, right? In women's fighting, it's a lot of submissions, it's a lot of groundwork. If you're a fighting fan, if you're an MMA fan, you like that. That's what you want to watch. Unfortunately, if you're a casual, which casuals are customers too, right? You have to care to them as well. You need some girls with some serious knockout power. And most of the weight classes that they have for women's right now, they just are not suited for it. They're not built for that. So I've said that for a while. You need to add some heavier weight classes to women's so they can, actually, eat properly and build some muscle that could actually put someone out in one punch instead of just, I'm going to tag you in the face 15 times and you're still going to be standing because I'm 135 and I'm not really doing much here. And it's the same thing. You go look at men's, lower weight. You go look at flyweight, featherweight. They're not knocking anyone out, right?
Remember Van and Royval? That was close.
Connor was the first. Yeah, that was but Connor was the first guy who was super skinny who had legit knockout power. Sean O'Malley, same thing. He built like a twig and he's out here knocking guys out. So if you really want to grow women's, and they kind of the 2 points I make are kind of morph into one. If you really want to grow women's MMA, specifically women's UFC, you got to get some people in there who will bring on a show to these casual fans, and that's how you turn casual fans into bigger fans, into experts, into diehards. You gotta find someone. Now, a ton of phenomenal female fighters in the UFC right now. Kayla Harrison, sensational. Wei Li is probably going to go down as the greatest Chinese fighter in UFC history. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
I have Wei Li as an arguable 115 GOAT.
Nunez is going to come back too. Shevchenko is sensational. There's so many great female fighters in UFC right now, but you just got to do something to bring the fans more into it. And right now, I just don't think that's being done in UFC.
I agree with you. I mean, the UFC had the 145 division, but it kind of folded because there wasn't enough big girls interested in coming to the UFC. I mean, PFL has a 155-pound women's division. That's where Kayla Harrison came from. And like all these Chinese promotions, you
got to throw money at them, right? At the end of the day, that's why these fighters don't come over from PFL or.
And that's why Dakota Dacheva will not come to the UFC, is because she's getting paid.
You just got
she's got
an
8-figure deal with the PFL, and you're going to come into the UFC. Exactly. That's why I think Dana White needs to pony up and go, you know what? I will pay her more than anybody else just because we need her in the UFC. And I would not be surprised in 3 years when Valentina retires, here she comes.
It's a huge untapped market. Right? I mean, like, it's happened in the history of female sports. It's happened so many times where one player comes around and just, number one, dominates and is just super popular. You look at Mia Hamm for U.S. Soccer, right? Right now, you look at Caitlin Clark and Asia Wilson. They're dominant. Caitlin Clark didn't even play this season. Still made more money off the court than anybody else, right? That's that's what you need. You just need people
it's crazy.
Who are flamboyant, who are charismatic, who have a personality, and they're also really good at fighting. And they have that, I hate to say it this way, they have that Instagrammable moment, right? Look at this, check out this knockout by so-and-so.
You're literally describing Dakota Dacheva in the PFL, who's 15-0 with 13 finishes.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, she is the PFL's biggest icon by far, and she's a woman who doesn't fight a lot. If that says something about the caliber of fighter that she is and the presence she has on social media and everything, is that she is the spark that the UFC needs in the women's division to really, thrust them back into the top. Because the minute she comes over from PFL, you thought the Kayla Harrison news was big. Holy shit, wait till she comes over from the PFL and see what impact she has. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets a crack at the title on her first fight, because if anybody deserves it, it's her. But other than that, it's just crazy to think that she's a girl in PFL and she's their biggest superstar.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting league. It's an interesting time, and it's an interesting time to be alive, especially if you're a Tom Aspinall fan, because you're sitting on the edge of your seat wondering if this is about to be the end. Because you know what? That's real quick. Let me go back to that really quickly about Tom. This is kind of a put your money where your mouth is moment if you're Tom Aspinall. And I think that's what a lot of people are worried about.
I see it. I think that this is one of the two fighters that has a chance to go out there and really take it to Tom and throw him off and beat him. And he's not a lock, but I think a lot of people are going to be backing him, myself included.
And let us know who you're backing on UFC 321. Once again, for those of you in North America, it is an afternoon fight. For those of you in Central Time, the main card starts at 1 p.m. The prelims start at 9 a.m. in the morning. So if you want to watch all these, get some sleep on Friday night. Hope you have a good one from myself and Drew Johnson. Enjoy UFC 321 wherever you're watching, even though we know where you're watching.